Hello there! Another Moogle Treasure Trove event is right around the corner, and as per usual, here's your video recommending you which items you should get in the event and which ones you can get throughout the game. If you didn't have anything that you really wanted to farm the last few events, this event you're not going to want to miss because it is stacked. If you haven't participated in one of these events yet, basically all you're doing is rerunning all the content for a currency called Moogle Tombstones, which you can then exchange at the itinerant Moogles throughout the capital cities for various rewards. As always, let's start at the 100 Tombstone tier, which is the most expensive, and work our way down. Starting off, the Cat Parasol is unique to this event and it's going to run you, again, 100 Tombstones, but in my opinion, it looks really cool, and unlike some of the other unique items we had in previous treasure troves, this one I think people are actually going to want. This is just so much better than these damn earrings we had. Next up, also in the 100 Tombstone tier, Both Ways, which is a haircut that you can usually get from Zatn or lockboxes. This is going to cost you 2 million gil and a buff on the market board otherwise. In my opinion, 100 Tombstones for this is a really good buy. Next up is the Samurai Barding. Again, for 100, this is going to give you a Chocobo Barding that you can usually obtain from heat-warped lockboxes inside of Eureka Pyros. This is fairly rare, so the price you're going to find this on the market board for is roughly 2 million gil and above, just like with Both Ways. So if you really like the look of this, 100 Tombstones is worth it. However, I don't think many people are going to be as interested in the Chocobo Bardings. Next, the Warrior of Light card. This is from the gold card packs which you can get inside the Gold Saucer, each of which costs about 2,160 MGP. And looking at what people said about this card, you can expect about one of these in every 200 packs. So you're going to be spending 400,000 plus MGP if you're just trying to target this card. However, if your card collection isn't that big yet, it might be worth gambling on this for a while, because obviously you're going to get other cards too that you can add to your collection. Next up, the emote Shiver from a Cold Warp lockbox inside of Eureka Pagos. You can find it on the market board as Ballroom Etiquette Insufficient Petticoats for anywhere between 2 to 3 million gil. For 80 Tombstones, to me, this is fairly expensive, but if you really like the emote, it's probably still better than spending 2.5 million on it. For collectors, I think it's a great opportunity to get it for cheap though. Next up we have /Sweat, otherwise known as Ballroom Etiquette Excessive Petticoats. This is not available on the market board, and you can otherwise get it from the Confederate Custodian for 10 Empyrean Potsherds, which is from Heaven on High. As far as I remember, you can get one of these Empyrean Potsherds from defeating the floor 30 boss, so you could just run floor 21 to 30 repeatedly. This would obviously take quite some time, and I think for 50 Tombstones you're probably better off just buying it that way. High Five and Sweep Up are both available for 1,800 Skybuilder Scrips, or alternatively on the market board, where you can find High Five as Uncouth Congratulations and Sweep Up for Next Godliness. The reasonable price range for these is between 200,000 and 500,000 gil on the market board. On the cheaper end, it might actually be worth buying them on the market board, but if they're not available for much cheaper than that, it's probably worth farming them out using Tombstones. The next emote is /Guard, otherwise known as Ballroom Etiquette Pointed Misgivings. And this is obtained from turning in 50 Bosjan clusters, which you can find in, well, obviously Bosja. Farming these is pretty tedious, so the item should be available for between 600,000 to 1 million gil, depending on the server that you're on. For 50 Tombstones, this is a really good item in my opinion. Next up we have a bunch of mounts. First of all, the Fae Gwiber from the Dancing Plague Extreme. You could easily go farm this unsynced with a bunch of friends until all of you have it. However, at that point, with the amount of organization you need to do that, and the fact that a level 80 trial isn't going to die super quickly either, you might as well just spend the Tombstones on this if you don't have the mount yet. Big Shell is available for 8,400 Skybuilder Scrips, or alternatively about 800,000 to 1.2 million gil depending on the server that you're on. Again, it's better value than some of the other stuff we've had, so for 50 Tombstones this is a really good buy. Next up we have the Tyrannosaur, which is from an Animos lockbox inside Eureka. I vividly remember that when I did Eureka for the first time inside Animos, I had like 3 or 4 of these. So I didn't think that they were very rare, but looking online, a lot of people simply got very unlucky. So while you could go farm it in Eureka, again 50 Tombstones is just not bad, simply because it doesn't take super long to farm out. However, do note that if you're gonna farm any of these yourself, I think the Tyrannosaur is the most likely for you to just get on your own. And then finally, the last mount in the 50 Tombstone tier, the Disembodied Head. in return for 10 gil more in potsherds, which you can get in Quarry Mill in return for doing Palace of the Dead. Just like with Heaven on High, there are floors where these are guaranteed drops. However, it's going to take a while to farm, so unless you're very much into Palace of the Dead and you really enjoy running it, I'm going to recommend, again, buying it with tomestones. The 50 tomestone tier this time around is just super stacked, and we're going to continue strong. And I didn't think I would say this, but the next 3 Orchestrion rolls are actually really worth buying. Those are Answers, To the Edge, and The Final Day. All of which can be crafted by alchemists, but do require 1 or more faded copies of various Orchestrion rolls. Otherwise, all of these are going to cost you 150,000 or more gil. Crafting it yourself is not really that difficult, however some of the faded copies that you're going to need are from Extreme Trials, so that is going to be the biggest time sink in this case. However, if you don't want to spend that much time farming tomestones, and you have to pick some items that you're not going to farm, then these are the most likely for me to get with gil. Next up we have another hairstyle, this time styled for hire, for 18,000 wolf marks, or alternatively 50 tomestones. Wolf marks are obtained from all kinds of PvP, so if you regularly do frontline, I would actually recommend you save up the wolf marks and just buy them that way. Frontline is really good for leveling jobs, and also you're going to want to do your PvP series anyways. The Shoebill minion is from Omorot or Eureka Orthos bronze sacks. It's not super rare and otherwise available for 200,000 to 500,000 gil, again depending on the server that you're on. Again, middle of the pack and worth a buy. I do think it could also be fun farming this in Eureka Orthos though, considering it's fairly new content. Next up, Forgiven Hate is a minion from Mount Gok, otherwise it has a price tag of 300,000 gil. Also a pretty good buy for this tombstone tier. And lastly we have the Verdant Partition. This is a furniture item, so it's only interesting if you have an apartment or a house, or obviously if you want to trade it to other players. You can get this as a drop in Saint Morcian's Arboretum hard mode, or as a Firmament Fat present, and it usually has a hefty price tag of about 500,000 gil. So for 50 tomestones this is in the right price range. Something else you could do is farm out a bunch of tomestones and simply buy Verdant Partitions to sell on the market board over time, because the Itinerant Moogle is going to still be available, this way it's not going to take up any of your inventory slots, and then just get rid of your Moogle tombstone stock over time. But do remember that the event might just crash the market board price for this item for a while. Alright, that was the absolutely insane 50 tombstone tier. We're now moving to the 30 tombstone tier and below. And there's actually still some really interesting buys down here. In the 30 tombstone tier, we're starting off with a bunch of mounts from various extreme trials, and these you can actually farm on your own fairly easily by going into these duties unsynced. I'm going to put the names of the duties down in the video description if you want to figure out where to get them. These mounts are the Reveling Kamuy, the Blissful Kamuy, the Legendary Kamuy, Auspicious Kamuy, Lunar Kamuy, Euphonious Kamuy, and the Hallowed Kamuy. Getting all of these mounts also allows you to get the Kamuy of 9 Tails from a quest, so remember that. These trials are level 70, and some of them I think you're not actually able to solve alone, so you're better off going in there with a bunch of friends. I recommend 3 or 4 people maybe, and just farming them for everyone. For level 50 and 60 extreme trials, I would actually err on the side of simply doing them yourself unsynced, but because the level 70 ones are a bit more tricky, I think 30 tomestones could save you a headache, especially if you don't have a good group to farm these with. So this is a really good start for the 30 tombstone tier again. Next up are 3 Orchestrion rolls, all of which are from Sigmascape v4, called Dancing Mad Movement 1, 2 and 3. Sigmascape v4 is a normal dungeon at level 70, so you can actually go in and solo that really easily. I just gave it a try and I killed it with Summoner in about 4 minutes. I think you're gonna want to bring something with a bit of self-healing ideally, maybe a few health potions, and you're going to be fine. By the end I got 2 of the Orchestrion rolls, so if you really want these, I recommend you just farm these unsynced instead of buying them with tomestones. The Skyblue Parasol is available for 900 Skybuilder scripts, or alternatively from a fed present inside the Firmament. You can also find this on the market board for about 200,000 gil, which makes the price tag of 30 tomestones pretty reasonable if you don't have this item yet. I think it looks really cool, although it does pale in comparison to the Fat Cat Parasol, which is also available in this event. Next up for 30 tomes, we also have the Toad Head and the Toad Suit, which you can both get for turning in 5 Archaeotania's Horn at Farthard in Yulmore. These are awarded for completing a fate called The Head, the Tail, the Whole Damn Thing. which has a bunch of prerequisites and thus doesn't spawn very often. There's a Discord server called Faloop, which tracks hunts and also fates that you can join, which is going to notify you whenever this spawns. I'm going to link it down below. It's called Faloop. All you have to do is go into the setup section and then select whatever trial you're looking for, which again in this case is the head, the tail, the whole damn thing, which by the way will also reward you with an achievement, so I highly recommend doing that if you haven't done it yet. As for the aesthetic value of the toad head and the toad suit, I'm going to leave that up to you. 30 tomestones for each of these is fine if you want to save yourself the hassle, however doing the fate takes like 5 or 10 minutes whenever it spawns. It's just a matter of being a little bit lucky and just being online whenever the fate spawns and the ping goes out. In the 20 tomestone tier, we have a bunch of furniture that I think you should skip because it's just available for much cheaper on the market board. Those items are the Skylight Chandelier, Rustic Chocobo Counter, Wood Slab Partition, Paisa Swing Chair, Lanosian Grape Pergola, Fruitful Fountain, and lastly the Cloud Acorn Chandelier. 20 tomestones is just not worth it for these. In the 10 tomestone tier, we actually have another item that's interesting, which is the 10-year anniversary portrait. So this one you'll be able to use on your adventurer plate. Considering it's unique to the event, you might want to get it if you're a collector or if you think it looks good. Otherwise, this would also be pretty easy to forget about and just skip. Next, a bunch of triple tride cards, both in the 10 tomestone and in the 7 tomestone tier. First up, we have the Nath card, which you can get from Mogmill in the Churning Mists. This shouldn't take long to get if you battle him a few times. Yugiri Mistwalker, which you can get from Yellow Moon in Oldar. This one is also really common and easy to get. The Suzaku card, which you'll only get from running Hell's Kier or Hell's Kier Extreme. This might actually need quite a few runs, so I would recommend just buying it with 7 tomestones. It's really worth it, it's gonna save you time. And lastly for the triple tride cards, Ultima the High Seraph, which you're going to get from Hanagasa in Kugane. Or alternatively, it's a guaranteed drop in the Oborn Monastery, so you could just run that a few times. For 7 tomestones, however, there's really no reason to do that. You should just buy it using tomestones. Next up, we have a bunch of minions that you should definitely buy just because of how cheap they are. First of all, the Paisa Patissier, which you can usually get from a Coupo of Fortune. The Paisa Thread Puller, same thing, from a Coupo of Fortune. The treasure box, which is otherwise obtainable for 440 allied seals from a Hunt Bill Mass at any of the Grand Company headquarters. If you have those laying around, you might spend them. However, you can also use your seals to just buy Aetheryte tickets and actually save you gil and just spend the 7 tomes. And lastly, the Fat Cat, which you can get from Waterside Explorations with your retainers. This goes for about 200,000 gil on the market board, so spending 7 tomestones on this is just a no-brainer. The Garden's Gates Orchestrion role is only available from completing the Pixie Beast Tribe up to rank 8 and spending 6 Fae Fancies. If you have the Beast Tribe leveled already, then you probably have these laying around and you can just get the Orchestrion role if you feel like it. If you haven't leveled it yet and you have no plans to do so, then you might as well buy it with tomestones. Next up we have the 1 tomestone tier, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but these are actually not completely useless this time. These feature a bunch of items that were previously only available for a limited amount of time. So for example, the Scarf of Wondrous Wit was actually a reward for like a community contest. I think the Gubu earring and the Dodo earring were previous Moogle Treasure Trove Event rewards, probably the unique 100 tomestone ones. And well, the list goes on. There's a bunch of earrings, the Kakshua earring, the Bomb earring, the Coblin earring, as well as the Taoist Moogle minion. And that's finally it. This time around, the event is so stacked, I'm actually really happy with this, because there's a bunch of things that I really want to farm out. I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please leave a like down below to help other people find it as well. For now, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good one. Peace!